Happy fall. Is it fall officially? Is it tomorrow? Happy fall tomorrow. Last day of summer then? Yes? All right. We are back in 2 Corinthians. Please turn your Bibles to chapter 5. Today we will cover the first 10 verses of chapter 5. So get situated there. And just as a reminder to backtrack where we left off last week, Paul basically was mentioning why he did not lose heart regardless of the circumstances, obviously focusing on the ailments and the heartaches and the sufferings of life, and especially what he had to go through because of his ministry and his calling to spread the gospel throughout that area of the world, Asia Minor. And he was giving reasons as to why he never lost heart, and he wanted to encourage others to not lose heart either. And towards the end of chapter 4, he did mention that the trick, if you will, was to focus on the things that are unseen rather than the things that are seen. And now in this chapter, especially the portion that we are going to cover right now today, he's going to develop that a little farther. But again, just keep this in mind, not losing heart, not getting discouraged, because we are shifting the focus from what is seen to the things that are unseen. So let's begin. For we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan earnestly, desiring to be clothed with our habitation, which is from heaven. If indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. Now, he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who also has given us the Spirit as a guarantee. Verse 6. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased rather, to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. Therefore, we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well pleased to him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. So again, now Paul is going to develop this idea and comparing the things that are earthly versus the things that are eternal. And he's using certain analogies, certain illustrations here. Primarily, he's using the analogy or the illustration of a house, a home, if you will. And he states here on verse 1, for we know that if our earthly house, this tent, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. First and foremost, it's interesting that Paul mentions that we know. He knows, and everyone else should know. All believers should know. He's not saying we guess. He's not proclaiming that we hope or we wish or we want. He is making this very definitive. We know. What do we know? We know that our abode, our current residence, is somewhat like a tent. And here Paul is probably relying on his profession for at least a portion of this illustration. We know that based on, certain things that we find in Acts, that he was a tent maker. That was his side gig, if you will, to make money as he ministered throughout. But also, very likely, he is relying upon the idea of the tabernacle. Do you remember what the tabernacle is or was? The tabernacle was this huge, elaborate tent that the Hebrews built to house the Ark of the Covenant. And essentially what the tabernacle was, it was a temporary temple. Prior to the actual building of the temple during the time of Solomon, they had the tabernacle. And they moved around and they could, take it down, put it back up, but it was always meant to be temporary. So again, Paul is very likely borrowing from these two realities, both his profession, but also the reality of the tabernacle, to illustrate the fact that we have a home here, but it's much more like a tent. It is supposed to be temporary. It is supposed to be a version of our residency that is not everlasting. So initially here, he's just, again, playing around with this comparison between what is earthly and what is eternal. And prior to that, again, he was saying that he doesn't lose heart and he wants to motivate others not to lose heart as well. And he is basically letting us know that we need to have a similar perspective. What we have here, what we experience, what we are housed in, it was always meant to be temporary and not permanent. So if something is temporary and not permanent, why would you invest so much of your heart, so much of your mental and emotional capital on something that again, you're not guessing, you're not wishing, you're not wanting, you know that it is supposed to be here today, but gone tomorrow? Perspective. Now from verse 2 to verse 4, he is going to build the argument that since we know this, we should actually be longing for what is to come. Again, not focusing so much on what is happening now, especially the negative aspects of life, but always having this perspective of looking forward to eternity and what is in front of us. He says on verse 2, "For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation which is from heaven, if indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life." So, Paul mentions that there should be some groaning going on. And this is much more of a verbiage of basically a passionate desire. Not necessarily something negative, but when you're really yearning for something. Similar to what kids do on Christmas Eve. All of us who's had little ones, and we're especially strict parents, and you can only open presents on Christmas Day next morning, right? And the kids would groan. They would passionately yearn to open, and it's rather cruel, don't you agree? Because you put it on display, right? They can't actually see what is inside the box, but the box and the gifts are very, elaborate with, the wrapping paper and the bows, and depending on which size, it might be something really good. But the presents have been there, and if you don't have too sinful of kids, they haven't opened it prior to and try to super glue it together and did a horrible job. But let's just say that they did not do that. And they've been staring at those gifts for days, maybe even weeks. What do?
they yearn for it. They passionately desire it. They try to barter with you by saying, oh, just one. Just let me take a peek. I won't open the actual container of the box. I just want to know what is inside that blessed, gift-wrapped present. Please, let me have it now. Paul is saying that should be our mentality, our posture during this life, yearning, groaning for what is to come. He mentioned something about being clothed. So now there's an expansion of analogies here. Initially, he is just talking about, having this house, which is our body, and considering the current one as tents, in other words, temporary. But now he's expanding this analogy to include the idea of being clothed as well. And these are, parallel ideas. But part of the reason why he mentions this, it was likely to correct a fallacy of sorts. Some philosophers of this era and even current day, they tended to focus on the spiritual nature of humanity. And in their minds, and what they taught was, well, ideally, when we reach this higher level, we will free our spirits. And that's what we should be wanting. Because everything that is material, everything that is earthly, everything that is physical is bad and it's sinful. But our spirit is there, and one day our spirit is going to be free, and we're going to be, flying around heavens with little wings and stuff, and, going through solid objects and just being free. Paul is correcting this notion by saying, no, even though we should not desire to maintain and remain in this physical body, in actuality, there is another one to come. So it's not like we are desiring to be naked. We're not nudists here. We will still be clothed, but this clothing, this housing that we will receive for all of eternity, it's going to be a different one. It's going to be a better one. If your version, if your clothing right now is Kmart level, and you know who you are, next up is going to be Gucci. Yeah. Nothing wrong with Kmart. It's functional, right? It covers you up, but it's not meant to be, you're not going to show off with Kmart. But what is coming up next is so much better. So here we're desiring what is to come, but we know that there's something physical out there. We know that eternity is not only going to be comprised of a spiritual reality, but also a physical reality. Our perfected bodies are going to be experiencing all of eternity alongside our spiritual realities as well. So now, as we transition to verse 5, Paul is going to give us some insight regarding what should be fueling this confidence that we have. Again, he's already mentioned several things that we should have regarding this eternal perspective. That this stuff here, this flesh, this carcass, if you will, it's meant to be temporary. There's something better to come, and it's so much better that we should be yearning for it. What should be fueling? What should be giving us extra oomph, if you will, to want that more and more? On verse 5, he says, "Now he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who also has given us the spirit of guarantee. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord, for we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased rather, to be absent from the body and to be present in the Lord." So Paul claims that God has prepared us to have this perspective. And there are many ways that God prepares us. I think part of the way that God prepares us for what is to come and teaches us not to be attached to what is this physical reality that we are all experiencing here is by the fact that slowly but surely we get older, we start feeling these little pains, our bodies start wearing down. And it's progressive, right? It's not all of a sudden we are hit with that, even though sometimes, every once in a while, you look in the mirror, you're like, wow, didn't notice that. When did that happen? But, overall, it is a progressive aging that we experience if we live long enough. If you don't want to age and don't want to go through that, what do you have to do? Die, right? James Dean looks great to this day. Right? Because he died. But those who do not die, we experience this progressive, slow aging. Literally, our bodies are dying. And I think that's part of God's intentions after the fall, if you will. We are supposed to experience this. It is something that is engineered. In the world, especially in capitalistic environments such as ours, engineers actually build things not to last. Phones and gadgets and most of the electronics. You remember the days when people built things to last, right? Eventually they caught on and they say, well, we can make so much money, so much more money, if we build things that are crappy. They look great, they're very shiny at first, they're fast, aerodynamic, if you will, but they all are crappy. Before, you would buy something and it would last forever. And if it happened to break down, you just get a tiny little part and you fix it. And again, you can just pass that down to your kids and grandkids. Nothing is built like that anymore because it is engineered. It's engineered obsolescence. And God, in a way, after the fall, a part of what we call a curse, it is actually a blessing. It is God allowing us time to detach from this reality slowly but surely. All of us at one point in time loved this reality, but again, if we are honest, we will come to terms with the fact that not so good anymore. And slowly but surely, again, God is preparing us for what is to come. And not only that, he gives us a guarantee. Paul claims here that the Spirit serves as a guarantee. What does that mean? Or how does that work? It's sort of like when you purchase a home. And there are several factors as to, how you're going to qualify for a loan. Your credit score, how much money you have coming in and out of your account on a monthly basis, your paycheck, if you will. But the third one is also important. How big of a down payment? The smaller the down payment, the trickier it is for you to usually get a loan because you can just walk away and say, hey, I don't want it anymore. I didn't really lose much money because I didn't give that much of a down payment. However, if you give a large enough down payment, the bank has the sense of security. This person is not going to be crazy to walk away from this mortgage because, again, all of that down payment is going to be lost. And here it's kind of a similar idea. We haven't achieved and we haven't experienced eternity yet, but there is a guarantee. God literally gave us such a big down payment that it would be absurd for that to be taken away. So again, we have reasons to be confident, not only because we are progressively being detached from this reality, because again, things are just breaking down, but we also have this warranty or guarantee, better put, that there are better things to come. And Paul plays with this idea of being, present in this body, but while you are being present in this body, we are away from the Lord. And there should be this tension happening throughout our lives. It is a blessing to have life. Life is blessed. Right? Life is something that is God-given. It is precious. So we should never downplay, we should never dishonor this great present that God gave us called life. But there is this tension, this ever-present tension, that even though life is a blessing, while living in this state, we are kind of away from the Lord. So we should always be going back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, life is good. We can do a lot of great things while living, but there's so many more desirable things that are to come, especially because in this next stage, in this heavenly reality, we will be, in a sense, closer with the Lord, together with the Lord, something that we cannot fully experience right now. And Paul mentions that this is developed by walking in faith. Now, walking, as you know, it's one of the most basic functions that human beings, learn and go through. Wouldn't you agree? Again, one of the happiest moments for a while when little kids are crawling around, eventually they start walking, right? And parents get excited, and then eventually we hate the fact that they can walk and go wherever they want, because before they were a little bit more contained. We could corral them much better, and now that they walk, every little step is an adventure, and they can go whatever they want. And it's a basic function, right? You go from point A to point B, and you do that throughout most of, if not all of your life. And Paul is saying, well, there's a very basic need for that in a human level, but you can actually expand this with this spiritual, heavenly perspective by thinking about this idea of point A to point B. Yeah, you are here and you want to go there, and you walk by sight. But just imagine if your idea of point A was a deeper understanding of where you're actually at. Not in this literal physical area, but in a time in history. That you are here for a short period of time, but eventually you will be gone. That's point A. And what if point B wasn't just that area right there that you needed to walk to, but if point B in your mind was much broader in the sense of eternity? So this is your location, your current location, this point in history, and you're here today, and unfortunately, you'll be gone tomorrow. In a couple of generations, no one will remember you, unfortunately. Sorry to break it to you. It is just a speck. You're important to God. God loves you. No one else will care. If Christ does not come back soon, no one will know your name in a couple of generations. That has happened throughout history. Do you know your great-grandparents' full name? Some of you may know, but most of us don't. They are gone, evaporated. It's like they did not even exist. That is point A. That's who you are. That's where you are. And again, point B is eternity. That is your final destination. That is the location that you will live at for all of the rest of eternity. And that takes faith. Every single step towards that, it takes faith. Paul is saying, don't just worry about here and there. Worry about this idea as being very temporary, and your destination, your final destination, being heaven, being eternally with your Lord and Savior. Moving on, Paul continues by saying on verse 9, therefore, we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well pleased to him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Paul has talked about, and I have sort of illustrated, all of the differences between this reality, now, current, compared to the reality that is to come, the heavenly, eternal reality. So there are a lot of differences, but there are certain things that remain, and that should be the same. What is that? Paul explained here on verse 9. Our duty and desire to please the Lord should remain. Whether here or there, that should be in the forefront of our mind. Why is that important for Paul to make this statement? Because it would be very easy for us to say, well, you know, we'll start pleasing God in heaven, right? For now, for this limited amount of time that we have here on earth, we'll do whatever we want to do. We'll please ourselves. And it's a short period of time. Paul is telling us that we should change our perspective. What is, 80 plus years, 90, whatever, here on earth compared to all of eternity with the Lord? Why can't I do everything that I want to do during this time and then spend all of eternity pleasing the Lord? That sounds like a great deal. Paul is saying no. There should be this desire to please the Lord regardless of where you are at. If you are here, that should be in the forefront of your mind. Whether here or there, in this next era, in this next stage, you should always be having this as an ultimate goal. Why? Again, God has engineered a way for us to be motivated to do that. Basically, Paul is saying that there will be a judgment. There will be an evaluation, if you will. Now, the Bible does depict God's judgment as manifold. There will be a judgment regarding salvation and condemnation. But this is not the judgment that Paul is alluding to here. Here, it's a judgment for all of those who are saved. And essentially what's going to happen during this period of time is we are going to be evaluated. We are going to be evaluated for what we did during our time on earth and why we did what we did. Essentially, everything is going to be exposed, and we will be evaluated and rewarded. So again, God has engineered, He has made sure that we continue to be motivated for this ultimate goal of being with Him throughout all of eternity, but also doing the things that please Him in this lifetime, because certain things do last forever. Certain things that are done today, in ways, they will remain forever. And if our lives are depicted by this desire to please God, that in one way, shape, or form is going to transition into eternity and our everlasting relationship that we will have with Him in heaven. Now, how can we sum this up? Again, Paul is making these comparisons. And the reason why he's making these comparisons between the earthly realm and the heavenly realm, it's because he wants people to have perspective. Even though we go through suffering, we go through pain, we go through heartache, Paul did as much as anyone. He had this perspective that regardless of what is happening now, it is not comparable to the blessings that are to come. And he used, certain illustrations, including this illustration of a tent, which resonated with me. When I was reading this and studying and kind of meditating upon it, I was stimulated to think back to some horrible experiences that occurred to me. Now, I consider myself a rather outdoorsy person. Not like, if you drop me in a jungle, I probably will survive a day or two, so I'm not like a survivalist per se. But, I like the outdoors. I like hiking, I like traveling, going to the beach, nature, if you will. But one thing that I've never really enjoyed, and it's never really caught on to me, is the idea of camping. I've camped as an adult for, I don't know, maybe 2-3 times tops, right? And every single time, it was a horrible experience. Every single time. We're talking about being peed on. We're talking about spending the entire night with the stench of throw up, vomit that does not go away very easily. We're talking about sleeping in a surface that you wish was hard. Hard would be a step up, because the surface that I'm talking about are those little rocks that just almost puncture your spleen. Every single time you try to, adjust yourself and get in a position that is relatively comfortable, and it's impossible. Literally, the coldest that I've ever experienced was during a camping trip. Not to mention the filth that we call bathrooms in campsites. And I could go on and on and on and on. Horrible experience every single time. But in the grand scheme of things, even though I was complaining, even though I was hating life, in the back of my mind, it was always, this is temporary. It's just a day or two. Pretty soon, unless like a bear comes and devours you, it's not that bad. Pretty soon, I will be home. Oh, and my bed is there waiting for me. My nice, comfortable bed with my blanket just there waiting for me. That bathroom that hasn't been utilized by a billion filthy people, it's there waiting for me. Electricity, oh boy, I can just flip a switch and I can turn it on and off as I please. The refrigerator, all stocked. Temperature control. I can just turn a knob. I don't do that, but if I wanted to, I could just turn a knob and it would be the perfect temperature. So what's a couple of days? No big deal. My home is there waiting for me. That is the perspective that we should have. Humanly, we're going to complain a little bit. We're going to gripe and grumble and, say that things are horrible or whatever. But if we truly understand what is to come, it is not comparable. Our home is there waiting for us. Amen.